medical countermeasures looks at three areas. Looks at the ability to test and make a diagnosis. That is the diagnostic capacity. The second one is the ability to treat if there are medical science products that can be used to treat. For mpox, we know that we don't have very reliable medicines for it, being a virus. And the third one is the ability to vaccinate people. So all those are classified as medical countermeasures. And in this case, we have diagnostic capacity that came from COVID, because the same tests that we use for COVID are the same ones that are needed for mpox. It's a PCR equipment. The challenge is, where is it? So if you're looking at controlling cross-border points, and border points about people crossing over, even if you identify somebody who is suspected to have mpox, how long does it take for you to take the sample and then send it to a lab that has a PCR and get back the results? And what do you do with the individual in the meantime? Right now, as you've seen communication saying, we have suspected cases, we are waiting for confirmation. That should be reduced to, we have suspected cases and we have now confirmed they are not or they are, meaning that the time to testing and results should be reduced, and that is critical. And the next thing is about what medicines or available science is there to put the patient on, even as you test, even if you're waiting for vaccines. So that is the critical issue now for diagnostics. They are available, but the time to diagnosis is too long for now.
I want to get back into that vaccine discussion, because looking at some of the data from Bavarian Nordic, I believe they put out a statement about 2 days ago, and they said, look, we've produced and provided around 15 or so million doses of mpox vaccine, provided those to around 76 countries in the last emergency, 2022-2023. But at the moment, do we have an idea of where these vaccine doses are and what might be immediately available at the moment? Because they're saying that the 2 million doses that we spoke about a little earlier, that will be essentially stuff they can produce between now and the end of the year. But in terms of what's available now, do we have any clear picture on where these vaccine stockpiles might be?
Yeah, the information is scanty because some of the countries have their own stockpiles, and then there's WHO that has some stockpiles. But most stockpiles are in the US, actually. We think that the US could be holding more than 500,000 doses. So the US did, make a promise to donate 50,000 to DR Congo, and Europe made a promise to donate 200,000. So the information about how many of these are actually stockpiled and what percentage of these 200,000 and 50,000 is out of the total stockpile, this information is scanty. What we know, therefore, is that the company that manufactured these vaccines is saying we can actually scale up vaccination, but we need money. And that money is about $100 per dose. So that money needs to be found collectively by countries, and the more money you get, the more doses you can order, and therefore the less the price. So there is a whole issue around market shaping or volume management for you to actually bring down the price for you to be able to reach more people. For now, most of the stockpiles are actually in the US and some in Europe, and these were the stockpiles that were done during the last outbreak of 2022.
There's something interesting that you mentioned there, getting emergency use approval done as fast as possible, because the vaccine might be available, but if it doesn't have national level approval for that emergency use, then you can't really deploy it into the market. Is that something that African government should do on a preemptive basis?
So there are certain international principles that apply to this. Number one is that when you have vaccines in development or even developed, then you need country by country registration. So we know that there's a vaccine that exists for mpox already right now from what we call Bavarian Nordic. That vaccine, the countries right now in our continent should actually have started the process of registering that existing vaccine so that it is available in case they need to vaccinate their people, and actually the doses and the money is available. So this should be something that the government should be doing as a policy right now. And that's what, so that we are not delayed. The vaccine is not available and then we are delayed by local registration. That's number one. But number two is, for those that are not licensed yet, then the WHO, World Health Organization, has to work with the research and development organization that have produced these vaccines, take them through emergency use licensing to allow them to be bulk purchased to be delivered to countries. Without emergency use licensing by WHO, then the Global Vaccine Alliance or anyone else can then purchase at bulk to deliver to the countries. So that's a key step in actually ensuring access, equitable access to vaccines. But then even within this, is also pricing and transparency of the pricing as well. We saw during COVID that countries went to pharmaceutical companies that had manufactured these vaccines that were even under emergency use authorization. And because they wanted to hoard vaccines, they negotiated prices that were not transparent. Whether they were high or low, no one knew. And therefore, it was very difficult to determine what the best pricing was. So again, even within this emergency licensing, there must also be the principle of equity. And that equity can be driven only through transparency. What orders are being made? Who is making those orders? At what price? Where are they going? And who deserves those orders?